Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to make sense of the big money moves that often come with more secrets than a Las Vegas magician's act. Today we are diving into a filing from Velo3D Incorporated, and let's just say it looks like they've been busy raising some serious cash. This report is all about how Velo3D Incorporated, or Velo3D Inc., as they are known, recently made a deal to get more money from investors. Think of it like a company selling small pieces of itself to get the funds it needs to grow or keep running. This specific report is called a Form 8, which is basically a notification to the public and the government about big events happening at a company that investors should know about right away. The most important event here is that on the 22nd of December 2025, Velo3D Inc. signed an agreement to sell shares of its common stock to certain investors. This whole money-raising event is being called a private placement. So what does private placement mean? It is when a company sells its stock directly to a select group of investors, usually big institutions or wealthy individuals. Instead of selling it to everyone on the stock market, it is often faster and less complicated than a public offering. Velo3D Inc. is selling over 3.6 million shares of its common stock. That is a lot of ownership pieces they are putting out there. And they are selling these shares at $8.25 a pop. If you do the math, that means they are bringing in a decent chunk of change. This deal is important because it shows the company is actively seeking funding, which can be a sign of either growth plans or a need to cover expenses. The deal was finalized the very next day. Quick work. Now here is something interesting. The investors who bought these shares are getting what is called resale registration rights. Basically, the company has to file paperwork with the government so these investors can eventually sell their shares on the open market without any issues. This shows the company is committed to making sure these investors can easily trade their shares later, which is a pretty standard part of these types of deals. They have to get this paperwork approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission, or CC, within a certain time frame. And to make sure things are stable, Velo3D Inc. has agreed not to issue more stock or file new registration statements for a while, up to 90 days after that resale registration statement becomes effective. This is to prevent flooding the market and potentially driving down the stock price. On top of that, the company's own top bosses and directors have agreed through lock-up agreements not to sell their own shares for 90 days after this deal closed. This is a common move to reassure investors that the people running the company are committed and not just looking to cash out. This whole deal was done under a specific part of the law that allows companies to sell securities without public registration, as long as they are selling to a limited number of sophisticated buyers. And these buyers had to be what the law calls accredited investors. This means they have to meet certain income or net worth requirements, basically proving they are financially savvy enough to handle the risks of such an investment. If you want to see the exact legal paperwork for this agreement, you can find it as an exhibit to this report. Now let's talk about the money. This private placement brought in about $30 million in gross proceeds for Velo3D Inc. before they paid any fees. They had two placement agents, Lake Street Capital Markets LLC and Lucid Capital Markets LLC, who helped them make this deal happen. These agents earned a fee of 6.0% of the money raised. That is a pretty standard fee for helping a company raise capital. On $30 million, that is a cool $1.8 million in fees. On top of the percentage fee, Velo3D Inc. also paid them $64,000 to cover their expenses, like travel or legal advice, that weren't directly tied to a specific outcome. This section just confirms that they indeed sold shares without registering them first with the public markets, which we already covered in item 1.01. The company also put out a press release on the 22nd of December 2025 to announce this private placement. It is standard practice to let the world know, especially when you are talking about significant financial activity. You can find a copy of that press release attached to this report as Exhibit 99.1 if you are curious about their official statement. And finally, there is the cover page interactive data file, which is basically a way to make the report easier for computers to read and process. Here at the end, we have the signatures. Hull Xu, the Chief Financial Officer, signed off on this report on the 23rd of December 2025. This signifies that the company stands behind the information presented. Now, let's talk about what this all means. Velo3D Inc. successfully raised $30 million through a private placement. On the surface, raising money is usually a good thing. It means the company has the resources to invest in its future, and perhaps weather any storms. The fact that they did this with institutional investors suggests these investors see potential in Velo3D Inc. It's business, however, we have to look at the details. Raising money through a private placement often comes with conditions. like the resale registration rights and lockup agreements we discussed. These are designed to protect the new investors. The company also paid significant fees to the placement agents. While standard, that 6% fee on $30 million is a substantial cost. What is the story here? Velo3D Inc. needed capital and they got it from sophisticated investors. The key questions for us are, what will they do with this money? Is it for expansion, research, and development? Or is it more about keeping the lights on if their current operations aren't generating enough cash? The lockup agreements suggest the insiders believe in the stock's future, but the need for this private placement itself signals that they likely couldn't raise the funds through more traditional public avenues at a price they found agreeable. We will need to watch their upcoming reports to see how effectively they deploy this capital and if it translates into improved financial performance and growth. So, what is your take on this private placement? Does it signal a bright future for Velo3D Inc. or raise some red flags? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more corporate insights. And don't forget to check out our Discord community in the description for more discussions and exclusive content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.